So you're approaching your 60s, you've built up a respectable nest egg in your company's 401k, and you're starting to wonder if you can go ahead and retire. But where do you start? In this case study, I'm going to take you through the exact steps that we took with one of our clients recently that ultimately gave her the confidence she needed to retire. Hey everybody, my name is Jake Skellhorn. I'm a certified financial planner and the co-founder of Spark Wealth Advisors. This channel and my firm are dedicated to giving you more confidence and clarity with your money. I wanted to do a case study on a single client of ours today because retirement can look a little bit different for single people than it does for a married couple. So throughout this video, I'll point out several different planning considerations that apply to single people and not necessarily to married couples. With that said, if you're married and watching this, just know that a lot of the planning process can be applied and transferred to you as well. So with that introduction, let's meet Jamie. All right, so here's a quick look at Jamie's financial situation. Her name has been changed, of course, for privacy reasons, and some of these numbers have been rounded just to make things a little bit easier. But she currently has a net worth of just under $1.3 million. That does include her primary residence. As we can see, that is paid off. So Jamie is a very diligent saver. She's been saving for her whole career and has been able to pay off that mortgage as well. So that's definitely going to help her in retirement. All of her savings can be seen over here. She has a savings account at the bank. Her 401k, which is her primary nest egg, has about $600,000, and this is a pre-tax 401k. She also diligently saves in her Roth IRA each year, so she has built up about $120,000 in that account. And then in addition to that, since she has plenty in her emergency savings, she has been investing more in a brokerage account as well, in addition to her 401k and Roth IRA. And as you can see, Jamie is currently 59 years old and wondering if she can retire as soon as possible. It's important to note that Jamie is divorced and she has 2 adult children, neither of which are relying on her for any sort of financial support. So a few more details about her situation, just to give you a little bit of background before we dive into her retirement analysis. Jamie currently works in HR at a local government agency, earning about $70,000 per year. We're also going to factor in her spousal Social Security benefit. Since Jamie was a stay-at-home mom for much of her earlier years, her own Social Security benefit is not going to be quite as high as that of her spousal's benefit. Since she was married for more than 10 years, she's entitled to half of her spouse's benefit starting at age 62. So for that, we estimated about $1,900 per month if she claims at age 67, which is full retirement age for her. Right now, her current plan is to claim it at 62, just so she can have that steady stream of income as soon as possible. We'll take a look in just a moment to see if that's going to make the most sense for her. But if she does, this is obviously going to be reduced by claiming early. Next, we'll take a look at Jamie's current savings. She's currently putting 10% of her salary into her 401k plan. And once again, she is maxing out that Roth IRA each year. Since she's over age 50, she can do $8,000 per year in 2024. Next, we'll look at her expenses. Since Jamie's home is paid off, a lot of her month-to-month expenses are discretionary, so she spends fairly modestly at about $3,000 per month. And again, since she is single, it's important to note that we will factor in taxes as a single tax filer, which is not going to be as advantageous as a married couple living on the same income. So again, important to note that difference there as a single tax filer. These living expenses do not include maintenance on her home, property taxes, and insurance. So we can go back to look at her home to see that she is also paying about $3,000 per year in property taxes, $1,200 a year in insurance, and $1,200 a year or so in maintenance. So again, important to budget for that separately outside of her discretionary living expenses. So looking over Jamie's goals, she wants to retire again pretty much as soon as possible if that is in the cards for her. So we have her retirement age set to 59. We'll take a look in just a moment to see if she's going to have to work a little bit longer or not. We're going to keep her retirement expenses at $3,000. Again, most of her spending is discretionary with the home paid off, so she doesn't see herself spending much more than that, if at all, in retirement. But we are going to have to budget separately for healthcare expenses since she's retiring before 65. So for healthcare expenses before Medicare, we're estimating about $400 per month. I estimated this using a calculator on the Kaiser Foundation's website. It's a really great tool to estimate what your out-of-pocket healthcare expenses would be when you have to buy a healthcare plan on the open marketplace. So I'll include a link to that calculator below if you want to check it out. We estimate that her income in retirement is going to be about $50,000 gross. So using this calculator, she'll only pay about $300 out of pocket because of that premium tax credit under the Affordable Care Act. So we added an extra buffer, made it about $400 a month just to be extra conservative. And then once she goes on Medicare at 65, we estimate an additional $3,400 per year out of pocket for a Medigap policy or Medicare Advantage policy. Outside of her month-to-month expenses, Jamie does want to see if she can afford a separate budget for vacations. So right now we just have this as a placeholder. So we'll have this set for the first 10 years of her retirement either way while she's more active, more healthy, and that cost will increase each year by about 5%. So last thing that we account for is long-term care expenses. The last 2 years of Jamie's life, we expect her to need long-term care. Obviously, that is expensive, so we use the national average for in-home care, which is almost $70,000 per year. That will also increase by about 5% per year between now and when she may need it. So now that we have the base facts out of the way, let's take a deeper look to see if this retirement plan is going to work for Jamie. So what we're looking at here is Jamie's retirement analysis, which is another word for a Monte Carlo simulation. And what that does is takes all the inputs that we've gathered from Jamie, such as her age, her current account balances, how those accounts are invested, her life expectancy, inflation, all of that good stuff. And it projects out 1,000 different scenarios of what could happen over the course of her lifetime with this plan. And what this is saying is that only 34% of those scenarios does she have enough money to last the rest of her life based on what she wants to spend. There are a few issues with Monte Carlo simulations and reasons that I don't rely on them too heavily for the end all be all of retirement planning. Number one being is that it assumes we don't make any adjustments to the plan at all over the course of Jamie's lifetime. So, in reality, if you see that you're starting to go down one of the paths where you might run out of money, any logical person might cut back on spending, pick up part time work, whatever it might be, make some adjustment to correct course and make the plan work. So, the way that I like to frame this percentage is not that there's a 34% probability of success and a 66% probability of failure in retirement, but more of a 66% probability that you will have to make some adjustment along the way. Regardless of that, 34% is not a great number that you want to see here. You generally want to get that up a lot higher. So, this is where we'll start to propose some changes for Jamie in order to make this plan work. The first change I'm going to recommend to Jamie is regarding her asset allocation. And again, just being as frugal as she has been, she's naturally pretty risk averse when it comes to investments. So right now, her allocation is very conservative, 42% equity, 58% fixed income or bonds. But after some educational conversations with Jamie, we told her that there are some risks with having an overly conservative portfolio as well. So now that we've reached retirement, she still has 30 plus years to live and 30 plus years of inflation ahead of us. And the best way to combat that is to invest more in the stock market, which historically has outpaced inflation over the long run. So by allocating her portfolio to a 70-30 portfolio, we can see that it's going to have a much higher expected rate of return that's going to help her over that next 30 years of retirement. And the way that we arrived at this number was not just from some arbitrary risk tolerance questionnaire or some cookie cutter portfolio. We actually framed it as setting aside the first 5 years of her retirement expenses in those safer assets like cash and bonds. And the rest of that money, which she wouldn't need for 5 plus years, would be invested in the stock market via various mutual funds and ETFs. With the idea being that if she does experience a large downturn in the stock market early in her retirement, she'll have 5 years worth of expenses in those safer assets like cash and bonds to pull from while stocks recover. So the first 5 years of her expenses worked out to about 29% of her portfolio. So to make it nice and easy, we made it a 70-30 allocation. So going back to her retirement analysis, we can see how this new portfolio would affect her probability of success. So as you can see, that has a substantial impact already by investing in something that's going to outpace inflation over the long run. The next thing we discussed with Jamie was her Social Security claiming strategy. She can claim her ex spouse's benefits as early as age 62. We ran some numbers with her and showed her that if she waited until 67, it's really going to provide her a lot more benefit over her lifetime, especially when you factor in the cost of living adjustment to it down the road. So let's take a look to compare the two strategies. If she claims at full retirement age at 67 versus as early as possible at 62, if she does, in fact, live till age 90, she'll collect over $165,000 more from Social Security by waiting just a few short years and living off her portfolio in the meantime. And because Jamie is healthy, we also like to show her that the break even on delaying this is age 77. The average life expectancy for a 60-year-old woman today is about 84. And again, with her being healthy, she expects to live that age or longer. And finally, since this is a spousal benefit that she'll be claiming and not her own, there's no benefit to waiting after age 67 since it will not increase like your own benefit normally would. After that discussion, Jamie was comfortable waiting until age 67 to claim the spousal Social Security benefit for that higher monthly amount. In addition to changing her Social Security strategy, we also revisited the long term care expense that she'll have or could have the last couple of years of her life. Because Jamie is single and her kids are self-sufficient at this point in life, she doesn't really have any need to leave a legacy for them, or again, she does not have any spouse to leave a home behind to. So we discussed the idea of using a reverse mortgage to pay for her long-term care rather than having her possibly work longer or spend less in retirement. So, by taking away this long term care expense from her portfolio and implementing the change of the Social Security claiming strategy, you can see we're at 75% probability of success already with these few small changes. I typically like to aim for about an 80% probability of success before feeling confident to give a client the green light to go ahead and retire. And there's a couple of reasons I like 80%. Number one is that if you aim for a 90 or 100% probability of success with these simulations, historically speaking, you would have died with a lot more money than you even started retirement with. So, in order to help Jamie maximize her early healthy years of retirement, we don't want that to be too high, and we don't want her to reach the end of her life with any sort of regret. So, the other reason I like 80% is because, once again, that means there's about a 20% probability that something will have to be adjusted, even if it's a minor change in spending at some point in retirement. And most people are comfortable with that low of a probability of an adjustment. So with that said, there's one last thing that we adjusted in Jamie's plan that put her over that 80% threshold, and that was her retirement spending assumption. The default assumption is that you'll take your monthly spending and adjust it for inflation each year. So she'll spend $3,000 and adjust it exactly for inflation and spend the same throughout her entire retirement. However, in my experience and studies have shown that a more accurate spending pattern is called the retirement spending smile. And what that means is in your early years of retirement, you tend to spend more than your overall average. As you reach the middle decade or so of your retirement, you start to actually spend less on an inflation adjusted basis because you become less mobile, you're traveling less, get into more of a routine. And then healthcare expenses towards the end of your life might pick back up again. So on a chart, that sort of looks like a smile. If we implement this sort of spending pattern into Jamie's plan, we can see that that puts her right at 86% probability of success. So just with these few small changes, she's in a much better position to retire based on what she currently has saved. It's important to note that we haven't told Jamie that she needs to work longer. She's still expected to retire at 59, and she doesn't need to spend less than she wants to in order to make this plan work. So we try to take all other avenues first before resulting to those measures. And at this point, because we're in such a much better place compared to the original plan, we can see that as a dollar amount, her expected ending balance at the end of her life is over $1.6 million more than the current plan. But that's not everyone's goal. Of course, we want Jamie to live the best retirement life possible. So this is where we can go back to her and revisit those other goals, like possibly spending more money on vacations in the first decade or so of retirement. So what we did was we went back to Jamie and said, look, you can probably afford to spend another $5,000 per year in the first 10 years or so just on vacation with your family, with your grandkids. So if we add that to the budget just for that first decade or so, we can see she's still well above 80% and really has no long-term harm on her retirement plan. So with these few changes, I felt confident, and Jamie certainly felt more confident in her ability to retire today. As I mentioned earlier, the Monte Carlo simulations give you a snapshot into the future. So financial planning in real life is an ongoing process. It does require adjustments. It requires us to constantly monitor things to make sure that we're on the right path to live our best life, but also not run out of money. So I hope this video was helpful, especially for those of you out there that are single and approaching retirement. If you're interested in seeing how we can help you out with your own retirement plan, feel free to schedule a free consultation at the link in the description below. And lastly, one thing I didn't discuss too much in Jamie's plan today was Roth conversions. In her situation, it didn't make much sense for her to convert money to Roth since she's in a lower tax bracket in retirement than she is while she was working. But I did do a case study recently of a couple who's expected to save over $1 million in taxes using Roth conversions. If you want to check out that video, here it is now. Besides that, thank you for watching and have a great day.